Much for staying with 95.1 Nigeria Info, your passionate, trustworthy, conversational radio. We talk, and talk non-stop. And I tell you, the talk is towards action, not just for talk's sake. I know people will say words are cheap, they come to a penny. But the words here, honestly, you take them to the bank because we intend to inspire, encourage, inform, educate Nigerians on happenings, politics, governance, programs, human angle, health, whatever aspect it is, we talk about it here. And yeah, football. I was just talking with my guest and he says every other area, 100% football, not so much. Dr. Majeed Dahiru is here. He's a researcher, columnist, and tech team lead of Luke Stera Leadership Foundation. I didn't know that. Like, you are not into football at all.
At all.
Now we know.
I'm a sports illiterate.
Generally sports or just football?
Sports generally.
Generally.
Honestly.
I have noticed
I don't have the energy for sports.
You seem to be like all-round knowledgeable that I'm surprised you're saying this.
No, definitely not.
All right, welcome to the show. We start off with the roundtable as usual. Now that our guest is comfortably seated, we'll get to look at some of the big stories driving conversation in Nigeria. And then we're talking at the 5 o'clock hour about bullying in schools. That will make also for another great conversation today. My name is Kimberly. Wachuku Komi Kim, the Oracle, the digital Oracle, that is OTF, the fellow, or Chanya One, Madam Speaker, and I will say yes to them all. Two big stories we'll be looking at today on the roundtable, from EFCC, Yahaya Bello to State Police. I talked about it on Monday, but the good thing we have Dr. Majeed, where we'll go in depth with our analysis around these two very important issues, as much as we'll look at another story also. So, let's start off with Yahaya Bello, EFCC, and all of that. There's just so much going on since the day attempt was made at arresting the former governor of Kogi State over alleged misappropriation of 87 billion naira. And he evaded arrest from the EFCC thanks to his, would I say his successor now? Can't call him his principal, can I? Even though he's the governor, executive governor, who came to bail him out.
Yes.
And since then, we have seen poster full page by the EFCC showing that he's a wanted man. Customs and immigration have told us he can't fly out of the country because he's on the watch list. The police have withdrawn all this police personnel attached to him because, well, any attempt to evade arrest is also flaunting the law at this point in time. He should have honored the invite over time. And the EFCC had like a press conference to perhaps inform the media of what the efforts of the EFCC, the anti-graft agency, has been over time, particularly with, they stated a lot of things, but would for the conversation of today and now would focus on the EFCC and Yahaya Bello and the allegations against him altogether, where they describe all the efforts. The FCC chairman said efforts were made to bring Yahaya Bello in. They invited him politely, followed up with, kind gestures. Okay, if you think somebody is mounting journalists at one gate so that you don't come in, we can give you a back door to come in. Just come and answer some questions on how these monies were appropriated and used during your tenure. And he refused, to the point where I was telling EFCC to come and meet him in his village. And they thought, really? In your village? Is that how we operate? As an entire institution cannot invite you after service. You can't account for your stewardship. We have to come to your village to meet you. Like who? What exactly? And who exactly are you? And then they also revealed that about 720 million or billion naira removed from the government coffers. I need to get the M or the B correctly. Just before he left government house, and to pay his children's school fee ahead, through a bureau de change and all of that. And he needs to come answer some questions. But the big question in a lot of mind is, how difficult is it to pick someone who has no immunity at this point in time? And the EFCC seem to be frustrated with how much of a jamboree this is turning into. But just come and answer question, Oga, for your time in office. What do you make of it, Dr. Majeed?
I think it's an unfortunate incident that happened on that fateful day that the EFCC attempted to arrest the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and all of the issues that has been the media, the public space, and that has apparently muddled up some of the facts and obfuscated some of the truth behind the facts, as a matter of fact. But you can actually distill from the cacophony of voices for and against the EFCC versus Yahaya saga and reduce it to common sense of logical reasoning. So it is common sense and logical to say, look, EFCC as a body, as an institution, is set up as one that has a statutory function to tackle graft and other related offenses, both within government and outside of government. And so being a statutory body that is established by law, it's important to understand that there is always a presumption of correctness that is conferred on any statutory body, any legally created body or entity in Nigeria that is attempting or making effort to actually carry out that mandate upon which it was established by statutes. So there's this assumption of correctness ab initio. But now to check whether indeed that body is correct or not is why you have the option or the court system, the judiciary, to decide that. And so the first thing you do as a citizen, as a law-abiding citizen, is if the EFCC, who has powers to arrest and to prosecute, decides to arrest you, you are not supposed to resist arrest under any circumstance.
After several invitations.
Even if, for example, as the issue in Kogi seems to suggest that there is a court order restraining EFCC from arresting the governor. However, because we have what you now see as multiple court or conflicting court orders here and there that has gotten the legal media space into a frenzy. So we will not have to dwell on that too much.
The EFCC was trying to clarify that yesterday, saying that they have not infringed or anything or dropping anything.
That's why I said you have,
multiple interpretations
of the same. So what is important is this. Even if you have a court order that is ironclad, that is valid, and EFCC decides to come and arrest you in spite of that court order, you cannot resist that arrest. You will go and charge EFCC, sue EFCC to court for contempt of that court order that protects you from the arrest. When you refuse to be arrested or refuse to give yourself in, you have also taken the laws into your hands because EFCC is a statutory body of government whose authority in action cannot be challenged by resorting to self-help. This is something that is certain in law. There's no argument about this one. So the argument here is not even whether Yahaya Bello has a valid court order or not. I'm saying, even if you do, if at the end of the day the interpretation up to the appeal of Supreme Court says that he had the valid court order at the day the ICC attempted to arrest him here in Abuja, I'm saying that a citizen is not supposed to resist arrest or evade arrest. You go in and then your lawyers will do the needful to say, look, EFCC is in contempt of this court by arresting my client. And we are a country of laws. I am sure that the needful will be done. That is on one hand. Now, ordinarily, one would have expected that with charges already filed in court against the governor, because while he was in government, he had immunity. So they couldn't interrogate him, they couldn't arrest him or, take him in for questioning or something like that. But some certain people that have been linked to him are currently standing trial for the said offenses. And so what I would have expected is, this is not a big deal. Once you leave office, your immunity is lapsed, you simply walk out to EFCC and say, look, certain people are being interrogated or are being tried right now that are linked to me. So why is that? I think I'm innocent. So because ordinarily I believe that the governor believes right now that he's innocent. So there's nothing wrong with him going into EFCC upon, like the chairman said, he put a call through to him.
Put a call to him. You
honor their call, honor their invitation, because a security agency can invite you through various means, including written letters, including through phone calls. So whatever it is, with why you hear your name that, look, somebody is trying to say, look, you did this and that, you go there and say, look, I didn't do this. And you give your side of the story. They give you administrative bail, as is the case. The trial continues, and you get to the legal team with your evidence against their own evidence. And everybody goes on peacefully, and while the trial goes on, some of these will be saved. The country will say this trauma of this entire drama. But what happened in Abuja was such that the way and manner it happened, I think the federal government itself felt it was an affront on them. in a manner that might delegitimize governance and government structure in itself. And that was why you saw, it's like the government reacted, all the way, declaring him wanted and activating all measures to make sure that, okay, he doesn't leave the country and that they get him arrested and arraigned in court accordingly. So all of this would have been avoided. I say this because Yahaya Bello is a very high-ranking member of the APC. He's an ally of the president, a very good friend of the president, one of those who supported the president to become president. And so ordinarily, I do not think that he should have a problem at all going to the EFCC, because I'm sure...
Is it a case of someone feeling like you're above the law, you're too big to be questioned at this point in time?
We have friends in government. We have allies in government. Like I said, he's a very influential member of the APC. He came into politics relatively unknown, like from an outside of the establishment kind of thing. But Yahaya Bello has grown in the system. He has become even a grandmaster of Nigeria's establishment politics to the extent of even installing a successor. He has etched his own name in the pantheons of godfathers in Nigeria. So I don't know how he can be more successful within the confines of Nigeria's establishment politics. So he's like up there. And so I do not imagine, for example, that the president or the ruling party with such a very valuable player, quote unquote, in their lineup will be haunted by the government deliberately by way of persecution. I do not want to think so, really. So this is strictly, for me, what the EFCC feels may have gone wrong with the state finances. And the EFCC is not always right. In fact, in most cases, the EFCC has charged people to court and were not able to prove anything. So why am I saying this? EFCC is not a death sentence at all. So all you need to do was to go there, assemble your team of lawyers, and they will go there and defend you. And I mean, this... In fact, it is so difficult to even prove cases of corruption against politically exposed persons, particularly at the level of governors. It took almost 15 years to obtain a few convictions at that time, that the president then even had to give grand pardon to.
At the end of the
So what am I saying in essence? Not, willingly going to the EFCC, not cooperating with them to the extent of, okay, being arraigned, being granted bail, and he continues his life. It's something that I'm sure even his allies in government, even the president may have felt was an affront on his government. Because even if you're my friend, don't forget that he visited the president a few days before this incident happened. I mean, to show you how close they are, even though EFCC and Yahaya Bello having this running battle, the president still grants him audience, time and again. Governor Dodo, who succeeded him, who everybody knows was like his godson, whom he installed as governor of Kogi State, is such that he enjoys enormous confidence, even in the ruling party, that he just led the committee that conducted the primaries in Ondo. You don't give somebody you don't trust, that the government do not trust such a task. And there's no primary election in Nigeria that the president, which is the leader of the party, don't have interest in. So it tells you the confidence that even the president clearly is having in the Yahaya Bello political family in Kogi, enough to give that responsibility to the party chairman, to Governor Dodo, to go and conduct a Southwest state gubernatorial primary election of the ruling party. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is, I do not really see a rift between him and the president to suggest that they are trying to use EFCC to hound. I do not see that. Honestly,
it could just be the curiosity. Come and explain how this money moves.
My crystal ball do not reveal any such
machinations or plan whatsoever.
It doesn't occur to me like that. So this is completely unnecessary, meaning that there's nothing to fear, really. So when you go in, you prepare your defense. Everybody has a defense. So if you have defense for some of these allegations, you put it up. And let's see how it goes. So I don't think anything is wrong with, willingly submit. And I think those that should know better. The thing about politics too is loyalty. Sometimes you cannot really advise. You can't give such kind of advice to somebody who is supposed to be a political leader. But as somebody who is a friend and brother to the governor, he's my governor, or he was my governor. It's my brother. And he's a good friend too. I would say to him, look, step down some of these issues on your own side, so that it doesn't get worse than we have now. Because
it feels bad already.
If
you're facing off with an anti-graft agency, you've resisted arrest. You put media agents out there saying, money is not missing in our state. No, he's not a wanted man. No invitation from EFCC. When EFCC has clearly said, we invited you even down to a phone call.
The problem here is this. Before it gets worse than this, because at the point it will get to, if the government feels sufficiently even more embarrassed than they are already, they could take certain actions that will not be very palatable. And even the supposed administrative bill that's supposed to come with without stringent conditions might not be the case. They might even deny him bail on legitimate grounds of being a flight risk. So I'm just saying, at this point, some discussions will go on within the political circle which it belongs to, with the view of doing the needful. You see,
let's go on a quick break. We'll take this after the break.
In a move to boost the economy and tackle...
This is Nigeria Info.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Facts Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
The perception of the EFCC. When some people come off as being above the law, too big to answer to any institution or any authority because they've served them in office. Already, Nigerians think very poorly about certain institutions in the country. And then you start to say, oh, how difficult is it to arrest one man when he's within the country? How would it make the EFCC look if they don't see this to the finish?
EFCC will lose legitimacy in the eyes of Nigerians, and you cannot honestly now arrest any other person that you suspect of committing any form of economic or financial crime. And this is why I am sure the leadership of the ruling party, especially at the very top, will maybe be thinking to themselves. I mean, this man is one of us. Mm-hmm. He should know that no matter how powerful or influential you are, you mustn't give that impression that you are above the law, you're untouchable.
Yeah.
Because some other people will now feel that, okay, if he can help himself in this manner, why can't we also help ourselves in those manners available to us? So again, going to EFCC to report for interrogation and arraignment, as is the case now. Where we are now is that they want to arraign him because the cases have been filed already.
Yeah.
It's not a death sentence at all. So you walk in, you take your plea of expectedly no guilty, you ask your obliged move for bail, they grant you a bail under the set conditions. I'm sure no matter the conditions they set, as a former governor and as a big man in Nigeria, you have friends that can actually put forward whatever is required to get you out of that place, and the trial continues. This current Senate president is also having issues with the EFCC. It didn't stop him from becoming Senate president. A number of governors had issues with the EFCC. Some of them are even in the cabinet as we speak. Some are still facing trial. Some have been senators over and over since then. Some have become governors. You still have problems with the EFCC. And he doesn't really stop anything. So why would we wondering, why are we having this conversation and this drama when this is just something that by now you should have been used to? You know that most of you that have served as governors are usually guests of EFCC on the day of departure from office. It's always almost certain that once you leave, you report to EFCC. Because there are petitions, there are accusations that they want to come and answer to. And after thorough investigations, probably, if there's nothing found against you, it's either they drop the charges or you win the case in court. I mean, EFCC have been defeated in court severally. In the matter, they've also won a lot of cases. It tells you that EFCC charging to court does not necessarily mean you are guilty. I'm saying this because once a case is in court, it's not longer in anybody's place to say whether Yahaya Bello stole money or did not steal money. But Mr. Yahaya Bello will do best for himself to simply go and answer to those charges because EFCC has a statutory function, whether they're in error or not, whether they are on the right path or not, they have that statutory function to prosecute people for alleged economic and financial crimes. It is still within the realm of allegation, and if you feel that you did not do these things, you can defend yourself. Then you should freely go. I mean, a lot of people have been tried and have gotten off the hook. Look at somebody like the former head of service, Steve Orosai, one of the finest civil servants and technocrats we've had in this country, whose name today has been etched in gold, has been immortalized in that report of his, which recommended the most far-reaching reforms of the public service in Nigeria today to save costs and make it more efficient, right? He was tried by EFCC for so many years, and after which he was found not guilty. He was discharged and acquitted. His name is still intact. And today he's still going about his normal business and life, even though he must have suffered a lot of losses and damages because of that. But I'm just saying that somebody as highly placed, somebody as respected as that, so that should tell you that it's not always as safe if you enter EFCC net.
But does our law provide for any penalty for resisting arrest?
Of course. That is why I'm not quite pleased with this, because if this matter gets worse than this, I mean, you can see the EFCC coming out yesterday and actually speaking. It's like they have revealed so much. They have said so much.
The chairman revealed so much enough to say that he would rather resign than not see this to the finish.
I do not think that any president, for that matter, will allow any head of anti-corruption agency such as the EFCC to resign under this kind of circumstance. So what that means is the man apparently, or the institution of EFCC is having the full support of the government of the day. And it should be very clear enough to Governor Yahaya Bello and those around him that the government is behind EFCC in this, not because they want to be Chonchi Yahaya Bello, but because what happened, this issue of evading arrest, was an affront on the government. It's not government to sit down and allow such a thing to happen without taking the kind of action they've taken, like withdrawing security details and placing him on what list, which would have been completely avoided.
Even getting the Attorney General
to issue for an Attorney General to issue a statement to both the former governor and the current governor for what he sees as obstruction of justice is a serious sign that the government is not happy with one of their own. I say this because a few days before that he was with the president on a private visit. It tells you that he's one of the, the most you can call the ruling class. So they expect him to have known better than do what he's doing now. And so I expect in the coming days, common sense should prevail. Before it gets to a point where no court will grant him bail in the event that he's arrested.
All right.
So it can still be mediated. There can still be a remedy now. If, people behind the scene waiting to say, okay, can I have a soft landing for him? Especially with an EFCC chairman that was willing to provide that kind of soft landing initially by saying, come to my office. Okay, we're going to shield you from cameras. And even though that is itself was even questionable. I mean, why do you bend the rules for any citizen at all? But if you had gone this far to bend the rules for you, you should have taken that advantage to go in and explain and do these things quietly, so that if you are afraid of the embarrassment in the media and all, they have given you guarantees. And a lot of governors have gone in quietly and come out. And nobody knows. Yeah. Because some guarantees you are giving to them. After all, what they just want is fact-finding. And so this is completely unnecessary.
All right.
And I hope that common sense will prevail in the coming days. And this standoff, will actually will be over this standoff and things will return to normalcy. Yes.
Let's look at one aspect before we go to the next story. Perhaps maybe even get a few reactions for the next story. Is the fact that when PDP left government and APC came on board, and a lot of governors and certain high-profile individuals and actors within the PDP were being tried for corruption. The cry is a witch hunt. It
was selective.
Yeah, it was selective.
More focused on the PDP.
But right, even though PDP had been in power for 16 years, which is natural to find the people who have been there for 16 years. But right now we are seeing, even with the APC, within itself, self-cleansing. I mean, you see a number of people who served within the party and are the ones in the spotlight at the moment, even though not positively, being investigated. Do you think this is even enough to shift that narrative and correct the impression that if people have served in office over time, definitely they are the ones you're going to go after? It doesn't matter what political party they are on. I think it's perhaps to correct that in future.
Okay.
Maybe.
It was true that the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, 8 years, had his war on corruption heavily skewed against the PDP. I say this because there are lots of APC members of the PDP in the 16 years we are talking about, a lot of them. We also had members of the various parties that formed the APC at various levels of government too, both states, National Assembly, and federal government. So, I mean, the current president had been in government for 8 years between 1999 and 2007. He has successors too in that same party. That governors were on the platform of the AMPP. So it was a no-brainer that president didn't really fight a holistic war on corruption using the instrumentality of EFCC and ICPC. Now, in the case of the current president, one thing you can give to this administration is that somehow they are more sensitive to criticism and public opinion in some far-reaching instances. I will rehash a few of them. On this platform, we constantly talk about the fact that you cannot float a national currency. You would have observed that several weeks after Naira got almost to 2,000 Naira mark, we saw a reversal of that policy. And even a few days ago, when they stopped intervening and there was a depreciation in the Naira, by this morning they had issued a circular, or was it by yesterday?
Yesterday.
They issued a circular to sell dollars below market price. You see, there's an effort to control. Secondly, you might question again the source of monies for this intervention, but one thing is sure, they may have gone back on at least that policy in principle and now trying to come for monies here and there to support the Naira. If you look at the issue of subsidy too, it is clear that within certain parameters, one way or the other, the government is doing something that makes the price of petrol right now not reflective of market forces. Even though they constantly deny it, but the fact that nobody is able to import because they cannot sell at this price tells you that there's something they are doing to maintain prices at the current levels. Meaning again, they may have seen, the folly, quote unquote, in remove subsidy in the manner they did and thinking that the market forces can simply correct our energy security issue. So, on this other one, I also think that the president, too, knowing that he came to office with a lot of excess baggages and with a very low expectation of the public. And such a man who wants to also have second term, probably, naturally will want to be seen to be doing certain things right. So it is in this regard that you see that the EFCC is also beaming a searchlight within the ruling party and outside of it. I mean, whether we like it or not, that a minister was asked to step aside under intense public pressure is a sign that, okay, sometimes they listen to public criticism and appear to want to do something in line with the observations and concerns of the public. That is quite commendable. However, the truth is to really fight corruption in Nigeria, it requires just more than the EFCC and the ICPC. You know why? Corruption is a cultural problem in Nigeria. Or should I say, corruption has a problem of cultural legitimacy. It is perfectly very, very in order to be corrupt in Nigeria. Our political system itself is forged in identity politics, and I keep making this point. And identity politics created a reward system for political participation that is solely based on patronage. International scholars, as far back as 2 decades ago, actually did a study and named it prebendalism. Prebendalism simply means that an average appointive or elective public officer in Nigeria thinks that his area of responsibility in government is his own entitlement to state resources. It's a cultural problem, and our politics seems to have made it a permanent feature in our leadership recruitment process. And so, to really fight corruption, we have to go back to what I've been calling for earlier. Beyond what the ICPC is doing and the SFC, you also need the political class led by the president to commit that much needed class suicide, to kind of repudiate this prebendalism, go back on the foundational issue that have built up to corruption, and begin a process of national rebirth through leadership by example. That's the only way you're going to really, really tame the issue of corruption in Nigeria, because it is cultural. It is acceptable to be corrupt. And I'll say this.
Is it really acceptable to be corrupt? Or
have you noticed that when they went to arrest Yahaya Bello?
Because everybody cries against corruption and condemns it, but they're still thriving.
When EFCC went to Yahaya Bello's residence to arrest him, you saw reports of people from our own section of the country say, this is our son, and we owe him some level of protection. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because he was that symbol of political redemption for his own kinsmen who have been marginalized in the state since 1999 and been excluded from that number one position. And what you accuse Yahaya Bello of doing today, another governor for that matter, you consider it's like a common thing across the state, across the country. This tendency of, coveting what belongs to the government to like personal fiefdom. It's a phenomenon across board. So it's a cultural issue. So Yahaya Bello is not alone in this basket. I'm saying for us to have a complete rebate, we have to correct that cultural problem. Because corruption is so endemic that it is legitimate perfectly. And some of the issues that lead to economic and financial crimes are culturally acceptable, like nepotism, like cronyism, like sectionalism, influence peddling. Yes, because it is this process by which you now put in place people along the value chain of corruption that will help you subvert the system. And it's perfectly okay. Yes. So if you're a governor, you appoint some key officers in the chain of command of finance and accounting from your own homestead. And it is this phenomenon across the country, from top to bottom, right across the middle. And so there are many instances of these cases that EFCC alone and ICPC cannot resolve. And that's why I'm not so eager to give credit, per se, to EFCC and ICPC for fighting corruption, because I know that it's far beyond their remit. It's a political solution we require to fight corruption in Nigeria, because it's a political problem that is etched in culture.
All right, then. Let's look at some comments and get to the big story of state policing in Nigeria. There was a national dialogue during the week, and on Monday, we heard former governor speak. We had argument. We saw the position of certain individuals, even within the police force, as to if we're matured or ripe for it or not, even though former President Goodluck Jonathan says, see, you can achieve much success without some level of state policing, decentralizing the police force. But let's look at some point. Chukwuka Godfrey, oh my God, Majeed, God bless you. I see your message, Chukwuka Godfrey. James Kusu, Dr. Majeed, Kogi politicians are known for too much drama. Dino Melaye acted during the first administration. Yahaya Bello is playing the part 2 right now, is what he said. There are some of the other messages. St. Patrick, I think the IGP should be blamed for allowing Yahaya Bello escape arrest. Common sense would have been asking the policeman with Yahaya Bello to arrest him and bring him to book. He is not above the law. Kobe from Canada, when you said our guest, I wanted to cry. I said, where's Dr. Majeed? Then he laughed and I heard his voice. Thank God. All right, I missed your side of things. Well done, sir. God bless you. Welcome back. Please help us tell Gwagwalada Water Board to do the needful. Okay, so Shola from Gwagwalada. It is puzzling and mind-boggling hearing EFCC analyze the type of monumental money laundering fraud perpetrated by the former governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Yahaya Bello, when Kogi State civil servants were being paid percentage peanut, a salary for 8 years. It is unfortunate that a young man who emerged from youth demographic became governor through divine intervention for the first time in turbulent political environment of Nigeria that was highly controlled by old political establishment turned out to be such a disappointment to the youth in Nigeria. EFCC chairman should stop all of the trials and take this matter to court. Or the trials of public opinion, and pursue this case with due diligence so that Yahaya Bello can face his nemesis in jail. All right. Okay, Ibrahim, thank you very much. Dan from Mutako, after introducing Dr. Majeed, please press a button to give him a clapping ovation. The political debacle unfolding in Kogi State, courtesy of the embattled former governor, Yahaya Bello, should be a source of serious concern for everyone. His action has set a bad example for upcoming young people who aspire to hold elective office. I urge the federal government and its agencies, particularly the EFCC, to ensure that Bello and his accomplices are arrested, interrogated, and prosecuted if found guilty. We cannot operate a democracy under impunity, as it goes against the very tenets of democracy. If Yahaya Bello escapes justice, it will undermine the credibility of democracy as the best form of government in Nigeria. It is crucial that we hold up the rule of law and accountability to maintain the integrity of our democratic system. Kashim Isa Adaji from Maraba in Niger State. Fighting within, they don't want Yahaya Bello to be the chairman of the APC. It's very simple, Mrs. Omeza. All right, then. And let's see here. Good afternoon, Kim. I rest my case in the century of hours. I don't understand. Okay, can't watch the video right now. We'll get to more of your comments in a bit. So, Dr. Majeed, State Police, here we are. A national dialogue is going on. The House of Representatives is deliberating. They've invited some key people to come lend their voice and their thoughts and their knowledgeable insight on this matter of state policing. The police doesn't think we're matured and we're ripe for it. However, we had someone who has held office before and telling you that is the only way to go, non-negotiable. What we should be doing at this point in time is, trying to finding a way to be 10 steps ahead of whatever abuse we fear from the governors or whatever lacuna there might be that these governors can use to their advantage to abuse the decentralizing of police force at this point in time. It's a pressing matter. Insecurity is still a big concern for us. And the earlier we get to it, the better. The police is suggesting merger, road safety, NSCDC as a department in the police, more recruitment annually for about 30,000 police force, but not state policing.
Okay, first, let us do some definition of terms. There's a clear difference between federal police and police of the federation. Just as there's a difference between federal policing and state policing. So what you have in Nigeria is not a federal police structure. People often make this mistake. What you have in Nigeria is a police of the federation. It is jointly owned by all tiers of government. And they don't do federal policing. They do state and federal policing combined. So what I'm trying to let you know is that there's already state policing in Nigeria.
Not controlled by the state government.
Nobody's supposed to control the police, either the federal government or the state government. Nobody. It's a statutory institution that's supposed to enforce law and order in line with the Constitution and its operating manual. Meaning, for example...
In Nigerian Constitution?
Yes.
Because I know that the police answers to the president. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and...
You answer to the president strictly on management of the police force. Or not... If you want to arrest somebody, go and take instruction from the president. You're not allowed to do so.
Oh, okay.
That it is being done is just an abuse of office that will become used to, that we think is normal. I would not think that is the problem of the federation, police of the federation. Ordinarily, if the police has something against the first lady who doesn't have immunity, the police will go there and arrest her, with or without the husband's consent. It is within the statutory responsibility of the police force. I'll give you a clear example. If you recall, there was this Canadian citizen of Nigerian heritage who was attorney general of one of the regions in Canada, who actually broke a traffic rule, and a traffic police officer issued him a ticket, and then decided to call the head of the police because he was attorney general, and the police is supposedly under his control. So he called the head of the police of that region to inform him in a manner that suggests, okay, I was given a ticket for breaking a traffic rule. You know what happened to the man?
What?
He was asked to resign. Because that is influence peddling with intention to obstruct justice. That policeman has done his job. That policeman didn't need to consult his superior. He was posted there to apprehend traffic offenders. He doesn't need to call anybody to do that job. A commissioner of police is posted to a state to enforce law and order. In enforcing law and order, he does not require to consult the governor to take instruction in that regard. No. He can only consult with the aim to enhance law enforcement responsibilities of the state command. The same thing with the IGP. In fact, if the IGP were to give instruction to the Commissioner of Police outside of lawful line of communications for operational reasons, it can lead to the resignation of the IGP in the same country. Why am I saying this? The police of the federation, as we have it today, is already decentralized. Now you have state police commands. Beneath the state police commands, headed by a commissioner, you have the divisional police offices across all local governments in every state. And you have area command in each senatorial district. And guess what? A number of policemen working in the states of the federation are actually from those states. But you will not necessarily know, because as a policeman, they all look the same. But a lot of them are from those local communities. And they have a network of spies, informants, and collaborators for the purpose of law enforcement from those communities. So the problem with the police force is not even the structure as it stands today. The structure is badly managed, badly run, and thoroughly abused, underfunded, under-equipped, understaffed. Have you resolved that problem first? In Nigeria, we quarrel with our work tools like very lazy men. Okay, you want to form state police. I don't want to talk about the abuse yet. Let us talk about the existing police structure. Do you have enough police officers? I don't have adequate enforcement of law and order. Do you have a police that's void of political control and abuse and they're not performing their task very well? Do you have a police force that is well equipped, well motivated, and well trained, and they do not enforce law and order properly? Do you have a police force that has the right kind of training, right welfare packages, and all that is required to enforce law, and they didn't do it? Let us start from there. How much do you pay our police officers? How much do you pay the men? What is their welfare package like? What is the equipment that is required to enforce law and order that we have deployed or have not deployed to them? What are the inadequacies of the current policing before we talk about forming state police? Now, if under the same political leadership of Nigeria that, like in most cases, have not really done well in terms of delivery of even longer hanging fruit, what makes anybody think that this set of governors we are seeing now that have collectively, our governors, they have obliterated, for instance, the authority of government from the constitution effectively by denying government anything that has to do with autonomy. It's as if they no longer exist. It's as if, even though they tried before to be a bit fair, it's like they sat down together and decided that no, we must kill this state of government. And they've killed it effectively. To the point that even when the former president tried to use
executive
to resurrect local government, 36 of them went to court trial against the president in unison. Is it the same governors that at the state level you're supposed to have independence of judiciary? It's a constitutional matter. Independence of the judiciary and the legislature is in the constitution. It's called three arms of government. That is a democracy. They so overran the other arms of government that okay, there was now a need to spell it out in the constitution clearly. Autonomy. How many states in Nigeria have granted that autonomy, either financially or administratively, to the other arms of government in their states? The conflict of orders we're seeing in Kogi and Kano, for example, is because whereas in Kano, the NPP government in Kano is apparently after Gandhi, it's using state courts up and down to issue order up and order, and then they're leaving on federal high court to counter it. In Kogi, it's also a state high court versus federal high court debacle. It tells you how the institutions of the state have been overrun by the governors at that level. How about state independent electoral commission? At least INEC will still conduct election, and obedient will win, or Labour Party will win Lagos and win Abuja. Have you? Have you seen how they conduct elections in local government elections in states that is done by state independent electoral commission, that is the state equivalent of INEC? It is always 24/0, 16/0, 18/0, depending on the party that is ruling in the state, without exception. If Abga is ruling, Abga will win all local government seats. If PDP is ruling, PDP will win everywhere. If APC is ruling, take it for granted. The only state that attempted to do something close to that was Kaduna one time.
Kaduna, yeah.
And when they stopped the election and then did the needful for the other one, because it was like, wow, it's not going to work. So if a state government, as currently considered in Nigeria, cannot even allow for independence of judiciary in their state, legislature, electoral management body, where they appoint politicians into into the circle of the state, and all other institutions completely overrun by the governors. Is it state police that carries gun? That the governors will use for security, or to use to torment their people? Do they have used other things to torment their people? It's a no-brainer. We are not right for it. Not because we are not right by age of a nation that is 64 years old. No. The people that are ruling us are still toddlers who cannot be entrusted with certain kind of responsibilities. It's as simple as that. You're talking about states where you can't sometimes elect a people during an election. The state signature authority will come and tell you they are imposing 100 million, 20 million, and all of that. You can't even campaign freely.
But isn't it possible also that we could set up the legal framework and
There's a legal framework governing state judicial councils. That is the most spectacular. With a direct oversight from agency, yet governors can remove and subtract judges of their state at will. So if you want to remain in your seat, you have to be compliant. If they ask you to bring any order, you have to do it. Now, you also have the problem of plurality in states, ethnic groups. People that come from seemingly heterogeneous states, maybe purely Igbo-speaking states, purely Yoruba-speaking states, do not understand what happens in other states that do not have that kind of homogeneity. Imagine a state like Kogi, Benue, Plateau, Taraba, all these states where you have indigenous dichotomy and tribal warfare that express themselves in politics. So who are you going to give the commissioner of police in the states? And who will be the DPOs across the local government? How are you sure that governors should not use those police force as ethnic militia during election or during land tussle? You have governors that have not been able to prove that they are anything but leaders. And so how do you entrust an armed service personnel to governors?
How do we continue to employ these people if we're so scared of them and they're so above the law and they cannot also work within the confines
identity politics
of
is
our
the
law?
bane of our democracy. I've said it severally. And that's why I was excited when the Obedient movement emerged towards 2023, back to Kali like Peter Obi, who was able to win in the Southwest, a state in the Southwest, win in North Central, made some inroad into the North, into some part of the Muslim land. And I said, okay, maybe for the first time in a long while, we're about to witness a political rebirth of Nigeria, sequel to a national rebirth, where Nigerians can come together, irrespective of ethnicity and religion, and take their political destiny into their hands, as we saw that this was like a flash, but quite successful, where they can now elect a new set of leadership that know that they were not elected based on ethnicity and religion. They were only elected based on the fact that we want to go and deliver good governance through improvement of welfare and security. And that's the only way you can have a political leadership that can enforce law and order. Because it means that the process that brought them in was citizen-led, not a case of tribesmen waiting for fellow tribesmen to head government. You see, a tribesman does not obey law. He obeys his culture. A tribesman, even in power, cannot also enforce law and order. He will actually enforce his culture and tradition over and above law and order. This is the problem we are having. So you cannot add to our problems as we speak. We don't have enough problems. If you add state police to the problem, it's as good as saying goodbye to the democracy you have in Nigeria today. What is left of it?
Well, I don't know
So
about
it's
the
a terrible
goodbye to
idea
it.
at this point. So what I'm saying,
But
in
Dr.
essence,
Majeed, we have a threat on our hands when it comes to our security. And you did point out
improve on
about the
police
funding.
force. As the police force is now.
What if we need the states to come in
And I'm
at this point in terms
They are
of the
already-
funding,
they are already
collaborative
in.
funding?
No, they are in. They are supposed to be in. And I'll tell you something. You know what is called the police council? The owners of the Nigerian police force are members of the police council, the president and the assistant governors. That's why it's called the police of the federation. Let me tell you what should have happened over the past few years. The state government should have drawn a security architecture of their respective states. Complete security architecture. So if you're from a riverine state, if you are from the desert area, if you're from the middle belt, you draw a comprehensive security architecture, including the number of men you will require to police your state and all their needs. And of course, all their operational needs. So you take it to the police council and say, look, whereas you have given me 10,000 policemen for my state, what I'm required to have is 30,000. I want you, the police force, to recruit 30,000 men for me to augment what I have in my state, and I'll pay for it. The government is supposed to do that. They're not doing that yet. And in addition to that, you're supposed to refurbish all police posts in your state, upgrade them in line with your security architecture, and provide operational vehicles and other logistics to connect them for rapid response to crime, including armament. It's your responsibility. But you domicile in the federal police. The reason why that face is required is, if for any reason you decide to use it outside of security, there is a place people can appeal to that is higher than you to say, Mr. President, come to our help. Our governors have used all of this infrastructure to pursue tribal enemies or political enemies. So we have to run this system, this intermediate system, for like 5 to 10 years. And the governor show enough responsibility. Leadership improves generally in Nigeria. You cannot begin to think of signing off, final control from above, to allow for complete control only by the states. Until then, you can't have federal police as structured today, the police of the federation are structured today, and have state police. Beyond abuse, there will be conflict. People often refer to America, and there's a misnomer there.
We'll get to the American side of it after this very quick break. Let's join Dorcas for the news at the top of the hour, and we'll continue with the roundtable. Dr. Majeed Dahiru is our guest analyst, and yes, I'll get to take your input, your thoughts, your comments, your contributions also. Stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back to Hard Facts.
Nigeria Info.